Hello world, Patricia O'Connor and Frida Reba Darcy here. We're in training. That is a training treat. And today on the bonsai balcony, we are undergoing a little bit of change. I've done a little bit of rearranging here. I had like a whole bunch of trays. I hadn't really thought it out. When I knew that I was going to set up something like this, I just brought in some cinder blocks, threw a light there, and then I went, well, I need trays. So I went and dug out a bunch of trays, and then I said, well, then I need pots. So I dug out a whole bunch of pots, and then I started filling them up, and I put, actually, we started all of that out on the balcony and then brought them in after we had discovered we were just feeding doves. So now, what I did today was I took out all of the empty trays. I'm not going to fill all of those up. I took out all the empty spaces with the pot that had, some of them had substrate and some didn't. We're not gonna use that whole area. What you see there is one tray. Not all of those pots have seeds in them, but there are already the seeds that I sprouted 3 days ago. There are already 5 sprouts and a whoopsie, and by whoopsie I mean right in there, there's 2 seeds in one pot. I've done that a million freaking times, but I count everything and I think I'm doing everything perfect, and I always end up with 2 seeds in one pot. Anyway, that's part of our 5 and the other 22, 27, whatever it is. Probably don't have anything in them right now. So, but this will be when I take one of these out after it's going, I'll replace it with another little empty pot with substrate in it, and we'll pop a seed in it. The next thing I'll do is germinate 10 more seeds. But what I just did 2 days ago was I poked little holes in the soil and dropped a seed down in 10 of those pots, and to that end, or in 10 holes that I made, and to that end, so far we already have 5. And I'm just going to keep a run of these little Japanese black pines going there until we have too many or don't need any more, or however that works out. So that's kind of what's going there. That's easy for me to maintain. That won't get too out of hand. That won't make too big a mess. I have a mess to clean up, but we hadn't really gotten going with mess making there yet. So you can see our little babies popping up. See if I can show you that. That's the one that's got 2 in it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 5 still. Every couple of hours I come in here and look, and I might start seeing more and more and more as we go from here. But I look forward to putting a few more in there, and I will. I think we're going to be germinating those at like 10 at a time, 10 at a plug. And for starters, the first 10 has so far netted us five little seedlings sprouted so far. And I made a few little changes out here to, I think it's really, really a gorgeous day out here today. Tomorrow I'll go back to work, but today I've been able to enjoy this weather and this sunshine. And it's warmer, predictably warmer. We're probably in the 70s now. People are cooking out by the pool on a Thursday, which is awesome. I think that's just beautiful. And I brought out these guys. I tried to kind of sneak them in here. Hopefully I don't get the start sending the birds coming. But this is 11 of our little seedlings that we started. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Those are those guys that we started. Those 2 also. Those are the guys that we started, and that we out of the first 200 seeds that we bought. The seeds were like $17, I think, with shipping. $15, $17, somewhere in there. It came in a little Ziploc baggie that was very well protected. from shippers and mishaps. It was shipped incredibly fast also. The seeds germinated well. And for that money so far, we have 11 little baby trees, and we also fed a family of 2 doves for about a month. And the little rat bastards just ravaged our stuff. But I was very confident about how easy those guys were going to be to pop, because we had gotten a pretty good germination rate. We just gave them all to the birds. So I'm thinking that allowing them to go longer, also probably putting those little, giving them those little food cubes, or my little fertilizer cubes, is a good first start for them. You know, that substrate that it's in is not going to supply anything in the way of nutrients. It's just, you know, might as well be marbles for all that's, for all that goes. So I think it was probably about time to give them a little bit of food. Most of them had roots escaping out of the bottom when I took them out of that little holder. So they all seem to be looking pretty good. I just think it was time to move them out into the tray. What has also happened is I've moved quite a few of my mammays back here to the table. When I started this, my idea was that the prime spot was right there on the rail. And I even kind of lamented the fact that the overhang, a lot of times at certain parts of the day, will cast a shadow that starts right here. So if you're here, you could be in the dark or in shadow certain times of year. And it's like the thing that you're not supposed to do is put the plants on the rail. You can see it in different apartments around there. They're not enforcing that, and I'm certainly not going to say nothing. But so that's kind of the idea behind having my own shelf, and that's kind of the idea of lining it with copper so that it's my own drain. I can just put crap down here and not worry about it and clean it out when I get around to it, like a gutter. And, you know, my trees aren't going to let the water get away. But I always thought that this area was prime real estate. You know, I thought when you want something to thrive, put them on the rail. And when you start running out of room to put everything on the rail, that led to fluorescent lights like the ones you saw in the kitchen that I was using to pop those, but they were standard grow lights. They weren't LEDs. The next thing I did was decided to step that up and bring those out here and increase my grow area. So I made those LED grow lights by ordering plug and play replacement bulbs. I don't know if that's still the case, but whenever I did that, it turned out that those bulbs, 8 of them, because I had 2 fixtures, that cost more than buying 2 LED grow lights, fixtures and all, and it was a much cleaner, nicer looking setup. So if you look into that, and you look into saying, well, I've already got some fluorescent lights, and we've got some down in the basement we're not using or something, sure, you could paint those up and clean those up and order plug and play bulbs. See if they've gotten cheaper than when I did that. Make sure that you're not wasting money doing that, and you could just get a whole new unit for the same money that wouldn't have ballast and stuff that everything's running through. But I moved all of the, so I was always thinking that this was prime real estate. It stayed full fastest, but it always presented a few problems too. And those problems were heat, tiny little pots in direct sun, even sitting on this copper sheet would get quite warm. I'm not as worried about these. These pots stay cooler. Also, these trees are over potted so that they'll do a lot of things quickly. So what I have been finding though was my littler trees would have days, I would pick a day like today, 70, sunny, not a lot of wind, you know, beautiful day. Probably a lot of good UV light and everything that a tree could ever want. So you set your little babies out there, and then the temperature goes back down because that's what it does here, like all the time. It's not unusual for that to happen. And the next thing you know, there's a 10, 12 mile an hour breeze. The trees want to dry out faster because of the constant breeze that's on them. And the tiny little pots soak up too much heat. And so you start seeing, plus for those guys, I think it's too packed. I was seeing damage to the needles because of the way that they were kind of packed in there. More so than I think any one thing. Although I was also seeing, I think, some damage to the needles on some of them because they were just bumping into the ones next to them and crimping the needles. So they always loved this area. I just thought that I would go from here and give them more. And after a couple of weeks of doing that, I think the idea is probably, now today is probably the tailor-made day to leave them there. But I'd already gotten tired of seeing overall healthy looking trees just look like a little mishandled. I don't know if it's like I said, if it's the wind, if it's the heat on the pots, or if it's, but the little show hen trees, I don't think they thrive as well on the rail. It might be that these guys are going to be okay there because, like I said, they're over potted and those pots are still cool and they've been in the sun all day. I also think putting my ponderosas in this tray of substrate is a better idea than the way I had it before. Technically, they're kind of on the rail, and that one end of that piece of wood is on the landlord's rail, but I can put a block underneath it and pick that up, and then we would be okay. And this tin, excuse me, and this tin still has a solid bottom in it, so I have to watch how the level of water in there. I don't want that to get high into these trees, but I should be able to water these trees and let them dry out and have this vape off in enough time that they can that it won't fill up with water. So in other words, I won't have to worry about that dripping water out, even if it's touching the rail. But if I put a block underneath it that's a little bit higher, we'll be good to go there. Also, I did a little rotation on Simply P, and I think being able to see the side here that was facing out, it's still getting excellent sun there. I think that it's looking really nice too. It looks like it's really happy with all of that. So yeah, here you go. Here you go, flower. The cypress trees are doing really good. No big wonder I haven't done anything with them. They're kind of there for a bit, which is kind of how that goes. But that's just all. That's kind of what we had going on. Location. So today I changed the location of 11 little seedlings back out to what had been the danger zone. Hopefully the doves have maybe come to their senses or gone elsewhere looking for better meals, or hopefully I've got that stuff blended in with my things maybe well enough. Also, I was going, why do they mess with this stuff and not my trees? And all my trees have little fertilizer plugs in them that smell like mint, and that might be the saving grace. I have seen birds land in the bottom of my big trees and stand there and look like they want to pick clover, or and that's absolutely fine. That never bothered me. And I've seen them flip out the little fertilizer cubes, but I've never seen them hurt anything until I had pine seedlings, and they seem to find those to be delicious. So hopefully those are old enough to be out of the woods. They're old enough to get the heck out of the kitchen so that they could move on to another phase of growing, and then and we can start another round behind them, which is probably what I'll do at some point today. Tonight we'll probably also bring in something and do a little bit more candle removal, but I have been making good use of this day, and I've really been enjoying moving around, and I'm cleaning up some stuff and pulling back some stuff. And I've streamlined the kitchen starter area. That's a realistic area with a realistic number for little starter trees. And there is a place for them to go as our numbers increase. So yay, yay, and yay. I might can put a little cover, a piece of screen over this and this that I could reach through easy enough, but that would keep the doves away, and then I could start putting those up there, maybe as an idea. That's about it. I would just say the observation is I've kind of changed my way to thinking a little bit. In many ways, it looks to me like the lights are better than the sun. This has been after, you know, a little over a year or so of using the lights. The trees under the light seem to be flourishing. The trees out on the rail are still subject to wind, still subject to airborne irritants or whatever's blowing in the wind that could attach to them and then be their next fungal thing, and are subject to getting bleached out by sundown, which is over there. There is like a ray of orange sun that just comes right through here, and I've noticed before in trees, and even just like down to the branch of trees that fell into that little line of sundown right on the horizon. Orange, beautiful light, burns like a magnifying glass. My oaks, of all things. So, and I've heard of ponderosas, which, you know, is a canyon hang off the balcony kind of, almost kind of tree. I've heard of people saying that they've had trouble with those on the side that face sunset. So that western light, which is, you know, orange, it should not be as hot, but apparently that's a level that creates a spectrum that burns stuff. So that's another consideration, and that doesn't cause those issues. I did see when I first put these trees under light, I'm wrapping this up, I promise y'all. Whenever I first started putting these big trees under light, I would notice burn right there, where the reflective you know, where they would kind of reflect on one another, or the light would be most concentrated. So a new shoot would come out, and a little branch little fronds would pop out of that, and right at the center where the light would be the most concentrated, it would get a little rusty burnt look. And they usually wouldn't kill the whole thing, but that part would never change colors back to green anyway. It would continue to change colors. It would go from rusty to whatever, but the rest of the fronds would be fine. And that was almost like an adjustment period. I've also seen other plants do that in commercial when people are using a lot of feed, a lot of food, high mixtures or daily doses of quarter mixtures, which ends up being a lot, and then high output lights, you would see that they would burn a little, and then they would take off like dragsters. And so I recognized that, and by the time the rest of the foliage began to come out a little later in spring, they had already adapted. I didn't know at the time whether or not that was going to be a yearly occurrence, whether they would start off every year kind of thinking that was a little too much and then adapt as summer goes, but that ended up being like a first year thing. The trees decided after that it was perfectly fun with those lights. Farther in protects them from too much wind, and it also protects them from losing. It's not really too much wind. We don't really get high wind here as much as it just can dry out one side of the tree and you're looking at the other side and not knowing. So that's kind of what'll catch you out there. And that side, the outside of the tree, the outside of the pot will dry out faster, and that side that's in direct sun will heat up more faster. So yeah, rotation is rotation and location. That's what we would have going there. Like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. We will do another drop tonight where we're going to do some more decandling of our tiny little pine trees. We're working our way to our bigger pine trees later, but we're not going to have that many of them. We're going to do that a little farther in the game. Right now, I'm just kind of taking care of the wee trees, and I appreciate you, and Frida, Reba Darcy appreciates you. And thank you so much for watching.